Welcome to episode 14, part 4 of your Hearth at Home. This is the final part of Ali's story, so if you have not yet heard the previous 3 episodes, I encourage you to do so to provide context to where Ali picks up his story now. As a brief reminder, at this point, Ali is now a legal refugee in the US and has just moved away from his original host family and into his own room in an evangelical home. It is this personal space that provides him with stable peace and quiet for what seems like the first time since he was 8 years old. In the silence, he finds the practice of detachment from his pain, creating space in his being for study and to engage in practices such as gratitude and working with affirmations, while noticing the law of attraction at work in his life. He continues going to church, working in the chainsaw factory and at his cleaning job, as well as working with computers on the side.
So I lived like that for a year. I met some interesting people through church, and then later what I did is I signed up with another church that was less controlling in a way that, because there are some churches that kind of you have to be there every week, and if you're not there, they're looking for you. So I went to, instead of this Russian church, I went to American church called City Bible, and at that church, it was very open. You don't have to show up. You just be there. So what I did, because I lived amongst Christians, I didn't want to hurt their feelings. I told them, well, I'm going to another church, so you won't see me there. But I'm still part of the club. I had to play the game, had to play it, because you live in these people's household. You try not to offend them, but I started awakening. From the point of that religion is good as a foundation, but you can be without it. You can tap into higher consciousness, universal consciousness, and you don't have to have providers. Uh, you know, I don't know even how to call it, outsource. I don't want to put any label on it. It's just you wanted to get it directly from the source, the universal source. And that awakening helped me so much. And there is still pain, but it sits so deep. Like, and today you enabled me to just go and dive through it, and just to be there in the peak of my emotional. We went through my emotional peaks. There was also a moment when I got a green card, when it just came randomly, really. I was leaving, I was just working the jobs. I went to college as well. I applied for college, and as a student, as a refugee, they don't give you any grants. They don't give you anything. So what I didn't know the credit system, nothing. I just got a lot of student loans, and I got into college. So I was using the loans, and I thought the college would bring me knowledge, but it didn't. It just, I went there. I see that it's not really, you can socialize with people, but it's not, I don't know, it's not primal. It doesn't give me that rawness. There is nothing. And so 1 year later, I ended up with over $8,000 in loans for books and everything else. And I did quit the chainsaw job. I kept the cleaning job, and I was in distress. I realized how the system is just messing. It's just not working for me, and now I owe money. And so I met this guy who I helped with jailbreaking his phone, because I was one of the first, and he had to go for a wedding, and he loved his first iPhone. I did it for him, and he helped me to settle the credit. We basically got more credit card debt, but there is a the student loan credit is the worst. You don't want to mess that up. So we used our credit card debt to cover the student loan to get away from the federal loan. So to close that, and then I filed for bankruptcy at the age of 19 without having, just to pay that. And so I already ruined the credit history at the time. And it was just so crazy, really. But I realized how the system works. And I said, "Oh, I'm just going to keep working. I will try working." And little by little, I got a job at another factory to assemble medical parts. It's in ANS, which was bought by St. Jude Medical. And my life started just to get better and better. And I was working without any education. People would accept me because I had vision to work hard. And and the green card just came. I applied. They took my fingerprints, and there was no even interview or anything. It just came to me in a mail. I don't know. It was so random. Everyone was shocked. It's just like, how does this happen to you? I said, well, I was so tired I said, probably that one interview, the 4 hour, 3.5 hour interview that lasted, just did it all. And so I got a green card, and then I'm like permanent resident of United States, 2017. And this allowed me to go out of the state. And I met this wonderful woman who is still a very good friend to me, very good friend. My first girlfriend, she is 11 years older than me. She was in such distress. She went through divorce. And she said, Ali, Oregon, forget Oregon. Let's go to California. And I didn't even know even what California is, because I could not, as a refugee, you are not allowed to like leave the vicinities, and you're like, and so we moved to California, and I mean, San Diego. It's a long story, but I was so mind blown. I realized, wow, I mean, it's so much twice as expensive. And I started using my talents with computers. I didn't want to work, so I worked. I was selling eBay. I was fixing computers and selling them on eBay. So that's why I still have 2 eBay accounts, and I can sell anything. Like till this day, people ask me to sell stuff, I sell it. So we lived in San Diego, and there was a turning point in my life over there, a big turning point, big emotional peak. I we were living together. I learned to play tennis, beach volleyball. My life became so easy. Like things were just, I made maybe $700 a month, just enough to pay half of the rent and enjoy the life. Just play tennis, do nothing, like really fix computers, play tennis, just living easy life. But I noticed after a year and a half, 2 years, so I was lacking something. Like I'm losing myself. I'm not finding what is it that I have to do next. And what happened to me is it was 2011 already. I'm trying to buy a computer on Craigslist. Someone calls me, actually. I didn't call them. They called me. They're like, we have a computer, this and that. So I show up, and it was a setup. It was an El Cajon district. It's a very gangster district. There were some gangs, I don't know, Cribs or Bloods. There was some gang activity there. And so I was approached by one black guy, and something told me not to have all my money, all the cash on me. And I had just $40. He asked me to show the money. I showed him the money, and then he's like, wait, can you see the money again? And I realized that he didn't have a laptop. He had a case, there was nothing. And the moment I realized it, he just swung at me. I dived, and I clinched, and I saw 2 other big black guys running towards me too. And I thought, wow, it was just split second. I was so tense, and then I just relaxed. And when I relaxed, his grip loosened up, and I was able to swivel away. He tore my sweatshirt. So he ended up with my torn sweatshirt in his hand, and I ran away. And I came home. I got into car, drove away, and the next day, it's really. I'll send you a video of this. Next day, I'm playing tennis, and all in my mind I have is to go and buy another computer and sell it. Like all in my mind, even though I felt like this is a sign that I need to change something in my life. Something needs to be changed. But while playing tennis, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this one more sale, and it'll be fine. And then I'll think about what am I gonna do? Maybe find a job. So when I hit the ball, I'll send it to you. It's crazy. The tennis ball does not hit the net. It hits something, and it drops like in the air. Something in the air stops it, and I'm like, what happened? So I was so confused. And my friend Claudia, who I play tennis with, she runs to the net, and she sees a hummingbird with a twisted neck. I killed a hummingbird. To me, I was in such big depression, conscious killing hummingbird in both cultures where I come from, father's side, mother's side. It's a sign of downfall. I I didn't know what was happening. She was crying. I felt something needs to change. Something needs to change. I need to apply my talents. I took the hummingbird, I burned it and threw the ashes into ocean. We lived close to Pacific Beach. And I said to myself, I'm gonna do something. And that night I didn't sleep. Something came to me that I speak very good German. Find a job where people need your German skill. I There was only one listing on Craigslist. I looked on Craigslist, and the listing needed a German speaker, somebody urgently. I sent the resume. I applied. They called me. They talked to me, and then they set up an interview. And then they saw me in the interview. They didn't believe I can speak German, so they so they got somebody on the phone, and we spoke German. My German is very like high school German, like, hey, what's up? What you doing? It's a very slang German, the way I speak. And so it was fun interview in German. And it's like, was geht ab, Alter? So I got accepted, and it turns out the job was like the highest paying job for me at the time. I never got paid like $17 an hour. And so it was the job outsourced for Hitachi to take phone calls from German engineers and relay it to American. I was like, oh my God. And so they tried to verify, they did a background check. They tried to verify anything. They couldn't verify anything about me. No records whatsoever. The Ukrainian university that I went through, they declined that I even went there because I owed them so much money, and I tricked them in a way that I'm not Christian, and they just completely erased me from the system. So somehow they still accepted me, and I was happy, and I felt like, wow, finally my life is becoming more organized. And I, like uh, going through the interview, there was always this doubt, like when I'm a black guy who speaks German, and I thought, is this racism that they don't believe me? Do I have to prove myself wrong? I had these doubts, but then immediately I reminded myself about uh, what is it to be a victim? What is it not to be a victim? What is it to see yourself as a winner in any situation? Because I was not victim even when I was victim in Ukraine, because I constantly kept going forward. From Germany, I was a victim, but the mindset was not. And when I came to States, this victim mindset was instilled upon me at the beginning, living in that neighborhood. And I was able, thankfully, thank universe for these creators of The Secret and What They Believe Do We Know. It just really helped me to understand the mechanics, not to operate from the survival mode, but just to be able to operate from, and enlightened, sort of this conscious. I kept preaching myself all the time since birth. awareness, 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 awareness. And so now it brought me higher awareness. And I said to myself, well, if they doubt my German, probably it's not because I looked, okay, obviously I look different. Yes, I don't look like maybe I look more that I just crossed Mexican border, you know, who knows. But I was able to get the job. I was able to do it. And and it was so hard for me to be 9 to 5, but I saw that I'm becoming more organized. I'm becoming more together. Like it takes me away from my victim mindset because I am actually busy. I'm busy and they need me there. They need me in that organization. They rely upon my translations, they rely upon, and I started to integrate myself even more in American society, not just like buying, selling, reselling, all these transactions. I'm part of some organization. I'm needed. And I felt finally there is that acceptance. I needed to be fully accepted again on a bigger stage. And I was proud. We started like, you know, I was talking to my mom often, and she was proud. And yeah, my life really, my life really took off. And then I'm gonna briefly, it will be probably a little bit more boring or so, but in the corporate life, I worked for Hitachi, and then it was so hard for me to keep myself there with being on schedule, because I never had any organized life. There was no organized life whatsoever. And being in a structured environment made me feel like in captivity. And so what happened, there was this guy who is executive of support, Hisham Abdesamad. He bef- uh, there was this point in time before I moved to San Diego from Portland. I briefly worked for outsourced organization called ACS. I was Apple tech support. So I was taking calls for the whole Apple, making $10 an hour, making pennies. But that job taught me how America works, how people are, how I can communicate with people from different parts of America. There was a time I talked to somebody in, 1 second, the battery. Yes. There was a time I talked to somebody, and they didn't like the way I sound. They're like, oh, I don't want to talk to India. Transfer me to American representative. So there were these moments, but I never really took them personally because it could have happened to anyone. I was one of the first guys on the floor, a foreigner, because Apple tech support used to be overseas, and then moved everything to United States. So, and I was still like a foreign voice. And I worked there for briefly, and the takeaway there was that Apple is like the better system. And I always, when I was reselling computers, it was mostly Apple. And so that knowledge, I take that knowledge to Hitachi, even though they didn't need my Apple skills. But this executive, Hisham Abdesamad, he had Apple computer, which he wanted to bring to make it work in Hitachi. And he just wanted to make it happen. And nobody could do it. And I didn't even know what he wanted to do. And my supervisor said, Ali, oh, you work for outsource at some point. Do you know anything? Because it's going to take us a day to find Apple representative, and he needs it now. So I said, I'm going to do it. I didn't even know what needs to. I said, I'll do it, even if it will cost me a job. So I jump on it, and what he needed to do is he needed to bring some technical certificate from from make his computer work within Hitachi network, which is protected network. So what I did, I just took the certificate, I stole the certificate from Windows Computer, make Mac look, add it to the keychain, and spoof the system so it looks like it's a Windows computer within Hitachi. So it worked. It was not really like legally, I don't know, doesn't matter. And then I made his albums and iCloud work as well within the network. So he comes, he looks at me, he's like, this is no one ever done anything for me. He says, you need to work in IT. I said, I just got a job 3 months ago. He said, you need to apply for IT, and he leaves. So then I started pursuing other managers, like, hey, I was told I need to apply in IT. Obviously nobody listened to me. Nobody said anything. And then 3 months later he came again, and he said hello to me. He noticed me, and he thought that I'm already in IT. I'm like, no, I mean, nobody. So I tried to get into his office, because I knew he was there just for a day. I tried to get into his office because I feel like I need change. And what happened is I tried to set an appointment with him, but it was impossible. He was overbooked. And so his secretary said, well, Ali, you gotta kind of stop bothering, trying to, because I was creating traffic, like going every break, trying to see if he's available. And so next morning, I got email from my manager saying that what I do is violation of corporate law. Like I'm trying to jump through like 5 managers to talk directly with the executive branch, and I should value my job, and if I'm needed by executive, they will find me myself. Otherwise, this is first and last warning. If I'm gonna ever do this again, I will get terminated because I'm just a contractor. And I was like, okay. That day I was like, okay, I will just be calm. I should be just proud where I'm at. Everything is good. I just calm myself down. And then instead of lunch, I decided to go outside. And the moment I was walking outside to this corridor, I bump into him. I bump into this same Hisham. And I just unload everything on him. I said, I'm sorry if I was reported for bad behavior. He didn't even know I was reported. He said, no. I said, I tried to apply for IT, but it doesn't work. So I don't know what he did, but 2 days later, I'm getting a call from Silicon Valley saying that they will conduct an interview with me and see, because they need some Mac geniuses to make things happen in Silicon Valley for Hitachi. So they made an interview, and it was the craziest thing. They said, Ali, we're accepting you. You start April 1st. This was April 1st, 2012. I was like, wow. And I failed the interview. That's the thing. I did not even answer most questions. They were so technical. I had no idea, but they believed I can do it. And they said, can you start April 1st? I'm like, and the same time I got a letter from USCIS. I applied for US citizenship. And they said, you are now, you can go and collect your citizenship. So I said, can I do April 7th? Because so on my sister's birthday, March 28th, I became US citizen. On April 1st, I moved. On my birthday, April 7th, I started a new job at Hitachi. And it was like, as a Mac support engineer. Oh my God. And I just, they gave me like 50,000 a year, some bonuses. And I was like, wow, for somebody who really, who, it just worked. And then I moved to Silicon Valley. We separated very nicely with my girlfriend at the time. We remained good friends. It was a little heartbreaking, but she was looking for somebody, eventually to get married. And I wasn't ready. I mean, I needed to figure my life, and I was just, we're still very good friends. And we went through, she helped me a lot in California. Like, she brought me to California, and really. So then I became US citizen. I moved to Silicon Valley, San Jose. I slept on a pad. There were these like pads for a week, and then on my birthday I became U.S. citizen. I got U.S. citizenship, got new job on my. It was just so amazing. So I worked for a corporate. Uh, I worked for Hitachi, and then it wasn't enough. I found out that a year later I found out that I'm getting the lowest salary because I'm a newbie. So then what happened is worked. I found a way to apply for for a job for like for Apple job, and because my dream was to work for them, because I only worked as an outsource for them, and it just the idea, the goal was to see if I can make it to this company. I was obsessed with Steve Jobs' vision at the time, and there was no education. So what happened is I applied. They rejected. I remember they did reject me at first. I applied for an IT job, and then somehow I'm getting this weird text at 10 p.m. saying, "Hey, we have an opportunity where we could need your expertise." It was their job for the application review specialist, and so I applied, and it was such roller coaster in a way that I went through interview 1, interview 2, interview 3, and then they said, "We're gonna do a background check. We need to verify your education," and Apple is very strict about it. So they started verifying, and they said it's gonna take it may take 3 weeks in my case. So, and meanwhile I applied for another job called Restoration Hardware, and they gave me an offer. So I went with that offer to Hitachi, and I said, "Okay, guys, they value me for 20,000 more a year than you guys." So they're like, "You should be thankful for what you got, Ali. We're not having good quarter, this and that." So they basically let me go. They're like, "Okay, do a 2 weeks notice." So I'm doing 2 weeks notice. I'm leaving Hitachi, and I'm not yet at Restoration Hardware. I'm waiting for Apple to conduct my background check, and I was so overwhelmed. I left United States. I said, "Okay," and the background check got stalled. They said it's gonna take longer, and I just said, "I'm going back." I flew to Germany. I had this calling to go back to Germany and go to the refugee camp where I used to be, and it doesn't even matter. Do I get the job? Do I not get the job? Apple said, and then Apple said we could not verify your background, and so they just basically suspended. And I was like, okay. And then the Restoration Hardware was waiting for me, and I said, guys, sorry, I'm not probably gonna do it. So I was just in Germany, just reconnecting with people, the teachers, give them a hug. I went to the school I was studying in Germany, and I'll send you this photo. They put, when I was after my deportation, we lost all the contact with my teachers, and what happened is I lost all the connection with my teachers. But what I did is, when I made it to the US, when I made it to I tried. There was a brief stop. I went to New York in between, because they said there is a way to get a green card faster, and it didn't work. But I took a few selfies in 2007 from New York, and I sent it to the school's email. What happened is, while I was there in Germany, there was a photo. I went to see my teachers, and we had wonderful time together. And then I went back to my school, to the class where I sat, where I learned German. And then I look at there is a wall. There's like this wall of fame. I'm gonna send you. Uh, it had my picture on it from New York. So the picture that I sent in 20, the picture I sent to them in 2007 was there for basically for all this time for 5 years. And they didn't even know where I'm at. All they saw is like New York City because I was so proud. There was a Statue of Liberty there, and there was, and I sent it to the school's email to say I made it, and they were so happy. But there was no, I don't know, something happened to that email, and I lost contact with them. But and the teachers were like, Ali, when the kids come to school, we tell them that we had a refugee like you. We knew that you were somewhere in America, but we didn't know much, so we thought you were in New York, but you are now in Silicon Valley. So, it was just a wonderful time. And then while I was in Germany, the HR of Apple contacted me and said, the background check failed, education, basically everything. I mean, criminal is good, everything is clean, but the education failed, and we don't know what we didn't. Apple management, they didn't approve based on that. But I saw you personally, I saw who you are, and I think you'll be a great asset. So you're gonna be working for Apple under my supervision, so I approve you. So DHL packaged me the offer. It was like at the time was, yeah, it was 100, it was 70,000 a year, but with overtime it came down to like 100,000 a year. And I was just like, I was so happy. I was like, wow, this is my dream, my dream. So yeah, I did work for Apple for a year and a half, and then yeah, well, yeah, for 2 years total I worked for them. And in 2014, we had a war breaking off in East Ukraine, and it caused a lot of issues to my family. I had some relatives in East Ukraine, and family needed more money. They needed my help. So what I did, when I moved to Silicon Valley, I lived, when you make, let's say, after taxes, probably like 5,000 a month or 4,500, you um, the half I was spending on rent. You know how it goes in the system: rent, insurance. And I thought to myself, this is just ridiculous. So what I did is I fulfilled my other dream. My other dream was to buy a Sprinter van, motorhome, RV, and to live minimalistically. So I spent all the cash. I spent basically all the earnings I had for that year from Apple, and I got the car from the auction uh, through a friend. Spent all the money. I basically came with cash to the guy, everything that I earned. Drove to Oxnard, wired some of the deposits, brought the rest in cash. He says, "You're crazy." I also bargained, and I said, "Well, it's important now. I'm gonna be leaving there, and I'm gonna help the family." And so I moved into the van, and I lived on Apple parking lot. I lived, and I had extra $2,000. No, it was like 2,400. I was sending to family, help, whatever needs they need. And yeah, I continue working like that. Eventually, Apple later found out that it's like not cool, and I also dated a coworker, which is not cool as well. She became my subordinate. I got promoted. I became a team lead of the European app review team. So I got more salary, but I also started, I was like, I was a wild card in this whole company thing. I did my own review process. Nobody knew how approve, how I can reject 1,000 apps at the time. You know, the norm was at Apple, you have to review 100 apps a day. And I figured a way out to just reject, mass approve. So I had numbers like 1,000 apps approved, 2,000 like it was, the numbers were all over the place, and they couldn't figure out how I figured out some algorithm. And the accuracy, there was also a QA team that does QA, and they take like bunch of apps, and my QA was always like over 85%. So it will still be the same. They're like, no, you just don't get caught. I'm like, okay, if I don't get caught, how can you prove that the process is wrong? So eventually they got rid of me. I mean, they got rid of me for violating policy of dating subordinate, uh, because it also got emotional dating at work, and that was my fault. I take responsibility for it. And then and then after that, the craziest thing happened is that after the termination from Apple, I reached out. I was reaching out to the embassy and some relatives, and I finally got hold of my father. We found my father in Tanzania, and I just flew to Africa. I spent maybe a couple months in States, and I flew to Tanzania to see him, to see my grandfather, to spend time in go Kilimanjaro. It was, my mind opened up so much, reconnecting with the roots. I went to see Maasai tribe, where my grandfather originates. All my great grandparents on paternal line, they are Maasai, everybody. And I got a rungu, which is the stuff stick, like a baobab stick, from the chief of the clan. It was such profound experience, just reconnecting and finally digging and knowing who you are. And I think this is very important for everybody, is to know your roots, really. We're here to obviously evolve, we're here to connect with universal sources, but it's so important to know where you come from, what you are, why you behave certain way. Like why, for example, I cannot swim, but I can dance very well. You know, like there's some genetic predispositions, like why I can run forever, but I have hard time in the snow or in the cold. You know, I get cold so quick. So there is a lot of answers I got there in Africa. Really, just helped me and see how big family is. I don't know if my father has more wives. He didn't tell me that. He's very quiet about his personal life. But relatives, there is so many relatives. There is just so many cousins, and I was just so overwhelmed. You cannot see everybody. Just so many, and the family is so big in many villages. And it just took me, really, it took me to the next level. So ever since I came back from Africa, I spent, I don't know, a couple months there, I think. I came back to States, and I started fulfilling my other dream, which is the road trip across United States. Like I wanted to go and travel and see America, you know, like people told me how America is this, America is that. You should not go to these states, that state. They're racist in Midwest. You know, I honestly, I only experienced the best sides of America. Everyone was welcome to me in the Midwest, in many other places. Some places were just very poor, and I don't know, like I didn't enjoy Mississippi or Alabama that much, but I really loved Kentucky, Tennessee, uh, Kansas. I really felt connected. I felt connected with Americans, and just people offering me to shower in their home when I'm just like a stranger in a national park. You know, just like such good experience. And I met friends. I did this part of the road trip I did with my uh, godson and his mother. So there was like three of us, and then her boyfriend joined. So the father of the kid. So there was just a lot of positive, a lot of experiences, and that made me uh, basically right now I'm in the state of where I am independent consultant. I do some IT work. I still help some refugees. I help undocumented people. Uh, yeah, I do all kinds of stuff for them. Like maybe some of it is underground, maybe not. But it's just helping people that are in need, and not really asking much for life. I mean, eventually there needs to be a goal, there needs to be a vision to propel to a next level. But when you are searching for light, when you are looking for positives in everything, it actually helps you to heal. And I did have recently, I spent time at uh, one of the people that is big feminist activist, and I don't know why there was this thing that came back to me when I was washing the knives, and it triggered the memory from the past, and I completely collapsed. It triggered the knife stabbing. And she told me that I should need to go see a psychologist. And I did go and see, and psychologist said, well, the wounds are still there, but you have to self-express. You cannot be quiet. You have to write about it. You have to speak about it. You cannot hold this. And that's the thing, is that for the first part of my life in America, I've been detached. There's been that detachment that helped me, like focusing on something else, focusing on goals, focusing on positives, even though if you're in negative environments. So that detachment did help me in the beginning stages. But then later, when it came back to me all of a sudden, at some point, it never, I fell down. I felt like I'm being stabbed again. It just once like this, it happened in that household. So uh, I don't know what was energetically off. Something was off, and it triggered the memories. And uh, I realized that now through you, I'm very thankful for this opportunity where I can self-express and go there and actually speak from liberating perspective. Just feel free. I'm feeling free to talk about these things, talk about my experience of racism, what it is to experience it firsthand, physically, being rejected, and making it to the country and just manifesting a better reality. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want just to be feeling good and peaceful, right? And I just found a way in this country, and I only been surrounded by people. I never really experienced racism towards me. Maybe it's there really. That's the thing. That's why I cannot really relate to people that live in the U.S. Because it's a different experience. I come here, and for me, it's like it's not even there. I mean, no one is chasing you down. Nobody is stabbing you. Nobody is hitting you with metal rods. Uh, just, I mean, people are nice. People are helpful, and I go to this store, I go to that store, and uh, I don't see. I just don't see it. Maybe I program myself not to see it. I don't know. But when you vibrate, when you have a time to peace, when you have, like, the moment I got into this little room in Oregon City where I could collect myself together, put the pieces back of myself and rejuvenate little by little, I was able to realize that I can start projecting positive life and mindset where nothing bad's gonna happen to me. Nothing bad. Like, I'm in a quiet space. All it requires is to have a quiet space for a little bit, and then you just go, you smile, you radiate, and uh, people, most of my friends see me as somebody who is inspiring and positive and always takes them out of any pit they're in, just like uh, because I've seen, there can always be worse. I mean, there are people that go through wars, there are people that go through so many devastating experiences, but I think one of the worst ones is that constant rejection, because it, and then physical, because you do feel pain. But right now I'm just feeling grateful. I'm feeling grateful. I'm focusing on the planet shifts. things I never thought about really, like the vibration that is just elevating, and we're entering this new era, and there are more light workers, things I never could ever even talk about because there's so much darkness. There's just so much darkness, and you're. I'm not in survival. I mean, I still have all the survival instincts. I can save everybody money. Uh, I'm finding ways to lower bail for anything. I can do all of that, and uh, but I just all I'm saying is that we need to be grateful, and we need to have dreams. Really, I was able to pull out of Ukraine when nobody believed I could do it, through dream. It takes, and everything sort of falls in place with you. Everything is a test. I realized everything is a test. Like the fact that when I was uh, before applying at the embassy, the guy holding the blue stamp, the red stamp, like rejection, like it's just a test. It's a test of your belief. It's a test of how persistent you are with what you want. Because when you want something, it all falls into a place. And many of us, we forget it. We become relaxed. When I came to States, I saw this drive-through mentality, and I understood that people want food delivered on their plate, but right there. They don't want to stand in line. So when you are in survival mode and you see a relaxed environment like this, you see this is opportunity. You see you can make it. You can make it. You just have to have a case, fill the paperwork right, and it's all just in your hands, and you surrender to universe. So there is a lot more to share. I just the energy it's just like it's just up and down, and peak emotional. And thank you for being you. Thank you for accepting this, because a lot of information is heavy, and I'm very, very, very thankful. And I wrote some notes here. I don't know if I covered for you. Um, yeah, I think we covered detachment and everything. So, I mean, if you have any questions, I can go more. I mean, sorry, it was a little bit longer than that I thought it was, but I just can't stop.
It was perfect. It was perfect. And
Mhm.
I think that we have opportunities to speak again.
Yes.
You did a marathon just now.
Yes. Oh my God. It's in DNA. Ancestors, they run marathons. These Kenyan runners that set world records, they all come from the same people, same villages, same Maasai people. And I don't know, this endurance is very helpful. And I'm very happy for you to believing that this will serve a value to someone who could hear it. And yeah, we'll see.
I really want to honor you and thank you for saying yes to
Mhm,
this and for going into such detail, for sharing, for bringing us in,
mhm.
that we can like truly experience, like you brought me there with you.
Yes, yes.
And that's a skill as a storyteller, to
Mhm.
bring someone somewhere with you. And I really want to thank you for bringing us with you on your path to where you are at
Thank
this
you.
time, and
Mhm.
just really honoring you. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you so much.
And I look forward to any future conversations that we get to have.
Yes, me too.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
It has been so humbling to experience Ali's story. Please head to the show notes to find him on social media now and send him some love and support for stepping up in his own healing journey. And also for stepping up in yours through sharing his experiences and wisdom with you, that you may be inspired to never give up, to understand how every experience is truly for you, and to transform out of victim mindset, maintaining growth mindset through the worst of times. If you have enjoyed this series, please share, rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week.